Okay, let me start today's session. Uh, okay, so last week we discussed about the under the introduction to business communication about the four types of communication. So under that we discussed about intrapersonal and interpersonal and group communication and mass communication. Okay, so today we are going to focus on interpersonal communication and listening because these two are the most important foundational skills that we should know if we are going to learn about business communication. Okay. So, these are the things that we are going to cover today. Um, First, we are going to understand in details about what interpersonal communications, and there are key components you should know about the interpersonal communication. And also, there are behavioral factors involved in business communication, and also the role of listening. So I mentioned you earlier also, in business communication, the most important two foundational skills are the interpersonal communication and the role of listening. So we are going to dive into deeper levels about the listening skills also. And also, we are going to analyze the business applications, practically how we are going to uh, use this interpersonal communication and listening. Okay, so interpersonal communication, and also when we talk about listening, it should be active listening. So as I mentioned you earlier, these are very two important key facts in any kind of, not only the business related, any kind of communication, if you're going to maintain effective communication, right? Okay, so we need these interpersonal communication. We talk about when we are dealing with more than one person, you communicate, right? At least if you're going to communicate, at least there should be two people, right? And when you deal with that communication act, you will see the listening and speaking, those things are inseparable to skills that we are dealing with, right? Whether you're going to lead a team or whether you're going to manage client relations or negotiate a deal, you need you need to communicate with that person, and you have to listen directly, and also this impacts your productivity and the workplace relationships, and also it will help you to organize, uh, improve your organizational success. Okay, yes. Okay, so there is one student here. Uh, just let me take you into the I mean into deeper level of this interpersonal communication. So interpersonal communication we discussed that day. It can be the exchange of ideas, emotions, or it can be information between individuals, right? Okay. And these are the two main important facts which included when we are going to talk about interpersonal communication. Verbal, that means word. It's involved with a word, right? Verbal and non-verbal communication. So we are going to talk about in details about this verbal and non-verbal communication uh, because these two are very important for a person if you are going to be a professional in interact with another professional in a workplace. These two are very important facts. Okay, so let me give you this small exercise. Uh, There are components, key components. Actually, there are 6: sender, messenger, message and receiver, feedback, and context and channel. So I'll give you 1 minute. Just go through it and just try to match the best description given here from A to F. Yes? Yes. Can you give me the answer for the first one? Who is a sender? Yes. Who's shaman? Can you give me an answer for that? Sender? The person delivering the message, right? Okay. What's the message? What do you mean by message? It's a very important thing. Yes. There's the chat facility also available. You can send the answers to the chat. Yes. What do you mean by message? It's the content being communicated. Then receiver. Who's the receiver? It's the person interpreting the message, and there's a feedback that's also there. That's the response or reaction to the message, right? And the context, normally it is considered as the environment or situation in which communication occurs, the situation, right? We call it situation. And the channel, it's the medium you used. It can be the face-to-face or email, or it can be a video call. That's what we call. So we are going to talk in details about these components as well. Okay, let me take you to a diagram which all these things are aligned in the specific places. So you can see the sender is here and encoding the message, and encoding is there for the receiver part as well. And again, after the receiver received the message, and the person can send the feedback to the sender. And this is very important, noise. So we are going to talk about this noise also. What are these noise? I'll just talk about it when we are dealing with that separate section. That's about the barriers. Sometimes when you communicate, okay, when you communicate with another person, the message can be affected by the barriers like language barrier. If the receiver cannot understand what the sender says, so it can be we call it a language barrier. And also sometimes there are psychological emotional barriers at the same time when you are communicating with another person. So we are going to talk about in details the types of noises. Another one is noises means the barriers. Okay. Yes. Now, Actually, we need this interpersonal communication because these things can, through communication, you can improve the teamwork and collaboration, and also it leads to improve the leadership qualities, leadership effectiveness. Okay. So we are going to talk about the examples for these scenarios also. And also it can reduce the misunderstandings and conflicts. That's very important thing, right? If you are handling a business or if you are talking to a client, so it can reduce the misunderstanding because if you have a very effective interpersonal communication, right? And also from the customer side, you can see the satisfaction, and it can boost the service quality if there is a good customer satisfaction. And it also strengthens the negotiation and how you pursue the skills. Okay, so now this is one example for that specific why we need to have the interpersonal communication. For example, imagine a project manager who communicates effectively with their team. So that leadership ensures the clarity of the roles and deadlines. Okay, it can lead to a kind of a successful project completion. Okay, so now this is what we have to improve if we are going to dealing with business communication. That's called behavioral factors. So under this is the most important part of this lecture. So you are going to learn what are these behavioral factors, and especially the verbal and non-verbal communication, as I mentioned you earlier, and also why listening, especially the active listening, is very important in building up a strong workplace relationship. Okay, so now this is a scenario you have to think about. Uh, you walk into a business meeting. Okay, you have to think and imagine this situation where a manager delivers an important presentation. Okay, so the way how he delivers it, the words are clear, but you will see the delivery, it's kind of robotic, just like practice earlier. No eye contact or engagement. If you think, if you see this kind of thing, at the same time the listeners, they are not actively listening, right? So they are distracted and they are just scrolling through the email instead of listening. So we call this is a communication breakdown. So that's why we need to understand the importance of the interpersonal communication and listening. Okay, so business communication can be both verbal and non-verbal. And also listening is very critical. It's very critical as speaking. And also communication, it depends on the clarity, engagement, and attentiveness. So if you are going to pass a message to someone or to conduct a meeting, so these clarity, engagement, and attentiveness, these three factors should be there to make it very successful communication. Okay. Yes. Now it's a kind of a thinking question for you that I want to pause on. So have you ever experienced a communication breakdown in your workplace? I know you all are working students. So what caused it? You have to think about it. What caused it? And then what strategies do you use to ensure your messages are received effectively? So before we are going to think about these things, we should have a clear idea about the verbal and non-verbal communication messages and what we should know, the basic idea of those things. Okay, so without further ado, uh, we'll move on to the word and non-word messages. In other words, we can call it verbal and non-verbal messages. Okay. Yes. So first we'll focus on the word messages, verbal communication. So the verbal communication in business, we can introduce it in two ways: formal communication and informal communication. As you can see, the email, structured emails, we call structured emails, and reports, presentations, and official meetings, those are goes under formal communication. And team discussions, quick instructions, and networking chats, those things goes under informal communication. Okay, the next we are going to focus on how we can maintain, what are the factors we have to consider if we are going to maintain a effective verbal communication. Okay, so these three things are very important. First thing is clarity. What you say, the sender, the person who is sending the word message, verbal communication, so should be understood by the other party, the receiver. So to do that, you have to avoid jargon means, so you have to understand it should not be overcrowded with words, right? It's simple and short and sweet. What you have to say, it should be understood by the other person. And also, you have to use the appropriate tone and language. So, when you conduct a meeting, you have to use the appropriate tone. And also, you have to understand when you are writing or typing an email, also, the tone is there, the writing tone. Okay. So, while reading what you have drafted, the receiver will understand, okay, this has a kind of a formal tone in this email, right? So, and also it should be very concise, because you have to get to the point quickly, because we are dealing in a very busy business world. So we need to quickly clarify things to the other person to get things done easily and quickly. Okay, so these three factors are very important. Okay. So this is one of the example for the word message. So you can see an HR manager giving a feedback to an employee. It should be very clear, and also it should be very professional. And you have to use the constructive language to ensure the message understood and well received. So this is one example. So I told you clarity, professionalism, and conciseness. These three should be involved even when you are talking and when you are producing a document or an email. Okay, so now we are moving on to the non-word messages. That's about the non-verbal communication. So it is proven that 70% of communication is non-verbal, and your tone, gestures, and expressions significantly impact your messages. Okay, so when we are going to talk about the non-word messages, here we are going to talk about not the other part, that not the verbal. Words are not included there. So the other ways where we can show our communication, right? So we'll move on to that. First one is body language. Okay, so body language, you have seen these elements: open postures, the firm shake hand, and the eye contact. So mostly the eye contact is very important, because it shows your confidence, how you maintain your confidence, right? Okay, so let's I have a video to show you what are the body language and how it affects, and how you can improve your body language to build up effective non-verbal communication. Because if you're going to be a successful professional in business communication, so you have to understand about the way how you show your postures, and way how you deal with your body language. Okay, let me show you this video to you. Give me a second. I'll just
Why is body language
Can you hear this or can you see the screen? Hello. Chamila, can you hear can you
important?
hear it?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, it's here, but not see.
Visual.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me.
Pretend this is
Now
us in a
can you see?
courtroom, and I'm here trying to convince you, the jury,
Yes,
that
can
body language is critical.
Okay.
Let's
Okay.
bring forth some evidence. The first reason, when you ask what people dislike about their communication, most people say, then I don't want to sound monotone. I feel like I sound a bit monotone. Did you know that a monotone voice comes from a monotone body? If you move your body, you move your voice. In other words, your voice is connected to your body and your body is connected to your voice. Next, your body language supports the things that you actually say. Now, let me do the same thing again. I'll say the same sentence without any body language. Next, your body supports the things that you say. Notice the difference? When you use body language, you're increasing the clarity of your communication. I'll do that again. When you use body language, you're increasing the clarity of what you're saying. And you see the difference I'm talking about? Even more, when we use body language well, it gives you presence. And when you have a stronger presence, you'll be more influential. More than this, research has proven that people perceive you to be a better leader when you've got better body language. I want you to watch this next video. It's one of my students. And just watch their body language and just notice within yourself how you're perceiving them in terms of leadership qualities. Do you perceive them to be a great leader or an average leader? Check it out.
So today I want to make a point. 10 years ago, I was basically this. I tried to jump, but didn't jump. Fast forward to 10 years today, I told myself, you just have to do it. You just have to go and give it your best and jump as high as you can. And I never looked back.
Did that person come across as a leader with their body language? Think about how their body language had an impact on your perceptions of them as a leader. Now let's look at another example of one of my other students. Have a look at this video.
Early on, I was dreadfully fearful of public speaking. And public speaking defined it to be 5 people sitting around a table, introducing themselves, talking about what they do, to 200 people. I couldn't speak, I couldn't breathe. Just talking about myself, I couldn't do those things. And then I got a coach, I got a mentor. She was a spectacular mentor. And I went from truly sucking to mediocrity. So progress. So fast forward, it's about 18 years ago, I get a phone call that says, hey, Steve, we would love for you to come to Amsterdam and do a presentation about team building.
How about that student right there? Did they come across as a better thought leader? Can you see the difference that body language has when it comes to communication skills? Imagine what happens when I stop using body language all of a sudden again. Notice how this impacts the way you receive the information that I'm sharing. It's not as effective, is it? Now, I want to remind you that what I'm about to teach you both applies to when you're presenting in person, one-on-one, and one-to-many. See how the moment I use my hands, your level of engagement enhances? Just really trying to bring this point home. But look, just as I was saying before, this applies to when you're presenting one-on-one and when you're presenting one-to-many. You just have to remember one rule. Be as big as the room with your body language. If you're speaking to one person, you can tone down the body language a little bit. Don't be so big, but don't bring such little body language that you dial it down to a 0. And if you're presenting to a room filled with providers, then you need to bring a bigger version of yourself. with bigger body language. We just have to learn to be sensitive to this. I have a friend who's an amazing human being. I love him to death, but he's always too big for the room. And if you know him, it's fine. But if you're meeting him for the first time, he can be extremely overwhelming. He just uses such big body language and such big volume when there's only one person, and you're just like, oh, please tone it down a little bit. And with each section of body language, I will share the nuances that you have to adjust for in the virtual world. Let's dive into body language.
Okay, so I think you have gone through that video and understood what can a body language do when we are going to communicate with another person, right? So it's very important you have the open posture. So when we get nervous, what we do is we mostly try to hide our organs, right? So you should not do that. Then the other person can see that you're nervous. So you are going to cross your arms and then like that. So when you're going to communicate with another person, feel free, and you have to open yourself more, and then you have to give, if you are giving a shake hand, it should be very firm, and also you have to maintain your eye contact, as that just the person who is in the video just making the contact with the others, right? Okay, so it's very important. So non-verbal means there is no word involved, but there is a communication happening, right? So you use your body language. That means your body, especially the eyes, hands, hand gestures, and all this stuff. Okay, so next one is paralanguage. This is very important. Paralanguage means the tone. So it conveys the enthusiasm. You can maintain your tone according to grab the attention of the audience, grab the attention of the listener. Okay. So you all can see the screen, right? Hello? Can you all see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Ah, okay, yes. Okay, so now we'll a little bit go into details about the body language and how it's going to be different from paralanguage. Okay, so I don't know whether this is visible for you. So mostly you have to understand body language, you use gestures, facial expressions, and postures. And when it comes to the paralanguage, it refers to the speech part and the pitch, tone, and intonation and volume, right? So if you are talking to a one person, you should not be raise your voice, right? But if you're talking to an audience, rather, I mean, to more than one person, then you have to use your volume, and you have to little bit, if you're going to stress something, you have to use a volume up, and then you have to use your tone a little bit up and the pitch, right? And also the body language, it conveys through the whole body. You use your whole body involved with that. And this one, paralanguage, it happens through your mouth, right? And also can be understood as a vision and sight. And this paralanguage only you can understand through hearing, because it's related to the mouth, and you use your oral cavity and all these stuff, and using the tongue and everything, you moderate or changes the pitch and tone and intonation. Okay. And also this is very important. This is we call proxemics, where you need to maintain your personal space. It also ensures your professionalism, right? If you're having an intimate, you can see the distance here. It should be very close. We call it's a very close relationship, right? When we meet our friends, when we meet our parents, and when we deal with our family members, we maintain this this distance, right? This very, very close one. And the distant relationship that we maintain, those things are called formal relationships. There you may have to use this distance. It's very important, right? So the social and public, these distance are very formal. So the with the boss and all those people. So you have to understand this is very important. This maintaining your personal space is also, it ensures your professionalism. Okay. So we discuss about the body language and then paralinguistic, it's paralanguage, and also this is the proxemics. And also chronemics. This is also very important where it talks about the importance of time. When we talk about time, punctuality is very important, right? If you are punctual, also it reflects your professionalism, and also it reflects a respect. Okay, so this chronemics, or the importance of time, you can see in these 5 categories. First one is cultural interpretation. So different cultures, they have different, they interpret time differently. And also they have the perception of professionalism. When you go to this, there are schedules. In professional world, you see the agendas are there, the meeting times they give you, and they see the punctuality, how you attend to the meetings in time, and those facts. And also there are some relationship dynamics also, value you have placed on that relationship, so you dedicate your time in that. And also effective use of time is very important. So if I'm going to do the lecture for 5 to 3, if it's be 2 hours lecture, if I'm going to get more than that, then again there is no professionalism in that, right? So you should be able to manage your time. Actually, these chronemics are very important, not even in the business world, even within your personal life as well. Okay, so the time management also, as the fifth fact, you can see it affects the stress level also, and also emotional responses, right? So imagine you have to attend to a kind of do a presentation. So if you manage your time, and if you plan your everything previously, and you do it according to the time and all, then you don't have that much of stress, right? Because you have prepared well. If you have not prepared well, and if you have not used the previous time to prepare yourself, then that would be your stress levels go up, and then your emotional level also go up. Then you cannot deliver what you want to say, right? So this is very important, chronemics, right? Okay, so the next one is haptics. This is, we call touch, sense of touch. So you may wonder why this sense of touch affects the communication in even when we relate it to the business world. It can motivate another person to build the trust within you, right? And also you have to understand too much physical contact can be misleading also. And at the same time, this sense of touch is very important, right? So we know if we go into deeper levels of sense of touch, if you all are mothers, you know, right? Rather than you are screaming at a child, just putting your hands in the hip and all these stuff. If you go near to that child and touch the shoulders, and if you give some advice, they will tend to listen to it, right? There is a kind of a importance of this haptics also. So there are different ways you can there are hand symbols. You can show thumbs up, and you can just touch that person. You can give a shake hand, and you can pat a person's back. So it's up to you how you're going to maintain this official level formal type of haptics. Okay. Now, this is an example. Imagine a sales executive who maintain a strong eye contact and confident posture. It can earn the client's trust, right? Compared to who avoids the eye contact. So these are simple things that you should understand. Okay, so I hope you have understood. These are behavioral factors that we were talking about. word messages and non-word messages. In other words, if we tell verbal communication and non-verbal communication, right? Okay, so now, if we are going to talk about interpersonal communication, these two are very important. Not only the word messages, but also you have to use your non-verbal, that means non-word. Okay, word is not involved with that, but through that acts also you communicate with the other person. Okay, so now the second fact is very important, that is the role of listening in effective business communication. Okay, so this is what we see, and even in our education system, also in schools, we rarely practice this listening. Even when we teach kids also languages, we only test their writing abilities, but this is very crucial and important one. When they move on to the society, they need to practice listening, right? That's why I don't know if you also have overcome these kind of things when you see in the schools also the teachers scream, please listen to me, and please pay your attention and all these stuff, right? Okay, so first you have to understand we need the active listening. It's very important. And what is active listening? So that means you're going to avoid all the distractions. You give full attention, and also it's a kind of process. Understanding the message, that part, processing and understanding the message, that part, where does it happen in our body? Yes, can I have an answer for that? Processing and understanding the message, where does it happen in our human body?
In our brain?
Yes, very good. It happens in our brain. Okay, so it's very important when you engage with active listening, your brain processes, right? And also through that you respond it thoughtfully. So that's the difference between hearing and listening. These are two different words, right? Hearing means just you perceive the sound, right? You simply hear that and you just can ignore it. You're not processing it in your head, right? But if we listen to a Dhamma sermon, we process and understand that, right? So just like that, active listening, it always deals with the cognitive, that the brain functioning. Okay. So we need to understand why this active listening is more important in business, right? It actually builds a strong professional relationship. So how one person can improve a strong professional relationship by engaging with active listening? Can somebody tell me how we can do that? An example? Yes. Okay, so let me tell you one example now. Strong professional relationship. Okay, so now your boss tell you to draft a document and something like that, and he gives you the deadline, and also he gives you the most important facts that you have to focus on. So you actively listen to it and you draft the document exactly the boss wants, right? So there you, after you go and show it to your boss, it shows the boss will be very happy, because it through that active listening, so you can understand, it builds up the professional relationships, right? That's one example. And also it improves teamwork. So if you're working in a team, imagine a group leader assigns you to do that part. If you do not pay attention to that, or if you do not actively listen to that part that you have to do, then the other team members in trouble, right? So you have to improve teamwork through active listening, and also it makes you to collaborate. It's one project, so you're working on that, right? So it's very important. And also it reduces miscommunication and errors. So if we go to the first example, I said, boss asks you to submit this report. So he gives you the guidelines that you have to follow, and then you just do it, then it omits the errors, right? Again, the boss does not need to go through it. And also it does not miscommunicate, right? If you have written something else you wanted in that report, then it also tend to give the miscommunication, lead you to miscommunication, right? Okay. And also finally, it enhance the leadership and negotiation skills. Okay. So finally, what we can say is a person who listens carefully to their teams or to their leaders, they can be very, they can maintain their strong relationships, I mean, professional relationships. Okay. Yes. Okay, so it's very important to have the clear idea about the hearing and listening. So hearing, it's passive, it's not active. You just hear it. You do not involve with your brain to understand or analyze the facts, what the other person says. You can just hear it. Or if you want, you can ignore it, right? But listening is very active process. Why is that? Because it involves with your understanding, analyzing, those things which happens in your brain, right? And also you respond to that message. Okay, so there are 4 types of listening we should we normally practice in business communication. First one is very important, that is active listening. So we were talking about that you fully engage with the speaker, asking questions if you want some more clarification and providing feedback. So you have to understand the researchers which we research done under this business communication and all these, they have found that 70 to 80% business mistakes, it results from the poor listening, right? So we have to avoid this thing to be maintain a good professional, strong relationship. I mean, professional relationship. We call that those are distant relation, not the close one. Okay. The next one is empathetic. Empathetic in the word itself, it has the patience, mindfulness, self-awareness, and trustworthiness, and all these things. That means you understand, you get into the same boots of the speaker. You go into the level of the speaker's emotions. And then you should understand about the speaker, okay? When you're going to listen, it's very important. Even in your even in our day-to-day life also, in our very close relationships also, we need to practice this, right? Because if we do not allow the other, if we do not understand the other person's emotions and all those stuff, if we keep on saying what we want, then that means you're dominating, right? You should not be a dominated person. You have to be an empathetic listening. You have to be a listener who is practicing empathy, right? And also, this is very important. This is totally different from active listening, but we call this one critical listening, where you evaluate and analyze messages, okay, to make informed decisions. This is mostly happening in the part of the owner of the business, okay? So that person has to take decisions to improve the company, right? The business. So there you may have to evaluate and analyze the messages. It can be these messages, you can see to take decisions to expand your company. So to do that, you have to avoid these things, right? First thing is you have to stay away from the distractions. One thing is, I told you that day in the first lecture, the mass media can affect the business, right? So they have the Facebook post and all these stuff. So they can mislead you, right? Misguide you. So you have to stay away from, you have to understand whether it's a fake news or a good news, because sometimes to take decisions in leadership within the company, you need to be aware of the society, what's happening in the global trends and all these things, but you have to stay away from the distractions. And then you have to know the perspective And sometimes you may have to do the critical listening to give honest feedback. And in the you cannot bombard with the senseless questions. You have to be very critical when you're answering very critical questions. And also you don't make judgments in critical listening. Okay. You are going for the facts, evaluating and analyzing. Okay, this is a very important one. Just like that, the fourth listening type, that is selective. That means if you want, you listen to it, and if you want to ignore, you just ignore that part. Sometimes we have to go for this selective listening because otherwise it takes so much of time. If you want to get something done very quickly, so you have to go for the very selective part of that part, and then you address that question, right? Otherwise, if you're going to listen to all and each and everything, then it also can be lead you to have misinterpretations, right? So it's very important to have this one as well with the time management. Okay, so may I ask what are the three types of listening that we have discussed? We have discussed 4. Can somebody tell me? What's the most important one which I discussed first?
Active listening,
The second one?
empathetic listening,
Yes.
critical listening, selective listening.
Okay, let me ask this question. Can we only practice only one listening type, or we have to go for all these, incorporate all these listening types? What do you think?
We need all 4 types of listening
Yes.
types.
Yes, very good. Because depending on the situation, context that you're dealing with, you have to use all these 4 in a very selective way, right? So keep that in your mind. So that means you will encounter all these 4 types of listening types in business. But depending on the situation, you have to decide. Okay. Now, since you know all the 4 types, there are bad kind of listening habits also which make you to conflicts and all these things, right? We need to learn those things as well. Okay, so the bad listening habits. This one, most probably you may have noticed. If you're not interested, you just nod your head. That calls you the listening. You're pretending to be that you're listening, just nodding your head, right? You may have seen these kind of things, but when we see the outcome, the documents which the boss has already assigned, it's not what the boss wants, right? And also, sometimes the personal biases also can mislead when we are going to be too much of selective in listening, right? So you have to understand that. And also, the third one is interrupting. That means this is happening in casual communications, or conversations also. You do not allow that speaker to finish what that person wants to talk, right? You in the middle, you interrupt that person. So then that's also a very bad listening habit, right? Then you don't get the full idea what that person wants to say, and again that person has to use whole strength to explain it from the beginning. So it's also a very bad thing if you do. And also the other one is defensive listening. Okay. So that you listen to that person and you make on your constructive feedback personally to yourself. You do not make your ears wide open, and from the part that you have listened, you just think, okay, this is what he's trying to say, like that. And also multitasking during conversation. Okay, now while you're checking the email and you are going to talk with another person, and this also sometimes when that person is talking to you, you're checking emails, and sometimes what that person is, you're just checking something, you're just scrolling on Instagram and all this. These are very bad habits. Okay, you have to show that you're paying attention to that. It also gives a respect. And also, you lose the focus on the speaker. That means you daydream. You're in another world. So even though you're physically available in the office, you may have thinking, okay, what I'm going to cook at night, okay, that like that. So like that, so you lose your focus. So it's very important to focus on these things as well, to avoid. Identify these are the bad listening habits, and you have to understand it's you're engaging with that, then you have to avoid that. Okay. So let's move on. If this how this poor listening or the bad business impact, how it impact the business world. So ultimately it leads to the misunderstanding, and it reduces the productivity. As I mentioned you earlier, the boss won't get the exact result that he wanted out of that project or the document. And also there can be some weak teamwork, right? So the example, you can see a team leader who interrupts employees during discussions may create a culture where employees hesitate to share ideas. It leads you to poor morale also. Okay, so now I told you when we were discussing about that diagram, about the key components of the communication, interpersonal communication. Can you remember those components? There's a sender, and also there's a receiver. There's a message in it, and also there's the feedback the receiver gives to the sender after reading the text or the message. And I have mentioned the noise, right? There can be barriers like that. So the listening barriers are distractions. It can happen due to you do multitasking, and also you're dealing with noisy environment. And also this is also another bad, the listening barrier, preconceived notions. That means you jump to the conclusion, you decide that this is the what it's going to be ended like this, and you just go ahead with your own assumptions, right? And also there can be emotional reactions, right? Sometimes you react defensive way, and then instead of listening to it very carefully, you come to a very emotional reactions. And also a monotonous tone. So as in that video I showed you, just you're talking without using the same pace, you're not raising your tone to stress upon those things. Just it also can make the disengagement. You don't want to listen to that kind of monotonous speech, right? Okay, then the next one is if the information is very too crowded, informations are there, so you cannot understand what I have to do, right? So too much data at once can also lead to mental fatigue. It can make you into confusion. Okay, so let's go for an example. So this is in the business world, we can find a client explains their needs in a meeting, but the sales executive is preoccupied with emails. And so you see at last the client will leaves feeling unheard and reducing the trust in the company service. So it's very important. This listening and interpersonal communication is the very key important facts in business communication, right? So if you do not use verbal and non-verbal the communication properly, if you do not practice the listening, then you lose the trust within your professional life and as professionalism, as well as you lose your customers, okay? You lose your clients. It's very crucial, right? Okay. So now, since we have discussed about the 4 types of listening, and also we have discussed about the bad listening habits, so we should know how we can use the strategies, how we can use to for the effective listening in business, right? So first one is practice active listening. Okay. So in practice active listening, very important one is maintaining your eye contact, right? It builds the trust, and it feels you that you engage in that conversation, right? And also you have to use the not especially the non-verbal communication, the body language. And here, to show that you are actively listening, you have to use the non-verbal communication, things we have discussed. Can you remember what we have discussed? Body language, then paralanguage. What else? What did we discuss? Can you tell me? So you have to use those things also to show that you're actively listening. We talked about the proxemics, the distance, okay, and then the chronemics and also haptics. Okay, and also within you, you have to summarize the key points before you're going to respond to the other person. And also you have to control distractions. What are the distractions? So now these days, our main distraction is digital devices, right? And you have to choose quiet spaces for important conversations. So you see there are specific business conference rooms are there when they want to talk about business things. I mean, business discussions, and focus solely on the speaker. These are the things you have to focus on, the control distractions. And also this is very important. You have to ask clarifying questions. If you do not understand, do not hesitate at the moment to clarify it, rather than you're going to clarify it later, because it affects your professionalism, right? So then and there you can show that you are effectively listening to that person one way, and also you can you can build up a very strong relationship, professional relationship. So then if you do not understand something, you can ask, what do you mean by this, right? X. And also you can ask, how would this affect our current project? So if there are any questions to be clarified, then and there you have to ask that questions. Don't wait till last moment. And also reflective listening. You have to use reflective listening, right? For example, you rephrase what that person has said, right? So the speaker says, we need a stronger marketing approach. So then again, listener can ask, you reflect on that listening, and you give a reflection of that, okay? You're suggesting we revise our marketing strategy or something like that. And also develop emotional intelligence, okay? So it's very important. We are now in the cooperative sector. We are moving on to this emotional intelligence. It's very important, trendy topic we talk. You have to stay open-minded, okay? Globally, not only limited to Sri Lanka. You have to open emotionally what's happening in the surrounding, and you have to be very empathetic, and you have to respond thoughtfully, okay? Thoughtfully, not reactively. Thoughtfully and reactive are two different things. If you react to something very thoughtfully, you can avoid the conflicts and the emotional situations, right? Okay. So how active listening benefits business profession? So again, it is very important for making informative decisions. We call about decision making and also problem solving. And also this active listening increases employees' engagement, and they motivate, okay, themselves. And also it improves client relationships and sales performance. If if you see a salesperson talking to the client, having a very confident eye contact and all, then the people will buy from that because they are really trusting that person, right? So you can increase sales performances and also enhance the leadership presence and team efficiency. Okay. So sometimes we need to not only always we have to complain, right? So customer service representative who actively listen to a customer complaints can offer better solutions, right? So you maintain your direct eye contact and you give proper solutions and all these things. So it increases the satisfaction and retention. Okay, so now we have discussed about the active listening and also the 4 types of listening and the listening barriers we have. And then we talked about the effective strategies that we can use for listening in business communication. Okay, now we are going to see how this interpersonal communication and listening both in one, okay, how it's going to impact the business applications. Okay, so let's see the first scenario. So leadership and team management, this one. So you can see a manager interrupts employees and dismisses ideas without listening. So when the manager does not listening to you, the team who works under that, okay, will not, they will lose their interest, right? They will disengage with that. So I told you the communication happen in different business organizational structures. We discussed that in the first lecture. There are different organizational structure we discussed. Okay, so under these each, there will be a leading manager, and under that, if you're managing a project, there are other people who are working under that, employees. So this communication should be very effective one. Okay, so the employees, they like if the manager listen to them actively, and also if they open, they foster an open discussion, and it all automatically improve the team to have the morale and productivity, right? So this comes with the leadership and team management. The second one, if we see, is in the sales and customer relationship. So the sales rep plays to understand the customer's concerns and pushes an unsuitable product, and that person is going to sell the unsuitable product to that person. Then there will be a communication breakdown there, right? So instead of that, the rep can ask questions and listen and recommend a personalized solution, and you can boost the customer satisfaction through that. And also, sometimes you can use this listening to avoid the conflicts, right? So there can be in your life also the two colleagues misinterpret each other's emails and leading the whole workplace into tension. So what we can do is, so you can see the supervisor can have the face-to-face communication, allowing both parties to express their perspectives and resolve the issue constructively. Okay, so since these things are there, the communication is a very important tool where you can avoid the conflicts, right? So face-to-face communication is very important rather than you can't see the other person. Okay, it's going to be very effective. Okay. Now, let's move on to new section. So modern business, as you can see, the interpersonal communication and active listening. So I'm repetitively using these two terms because these two terms are very important, right? Are very important skills that you have to practice, right? It's very competitive one. So the same thing, by improving both, we can, professionals like you can strengthen leadership impact. One day, even though you're working as an employee, so one day you can start your own business, so you can give the leadership, right? So you can practice. If you practice the interpersonal communication and listening, you can change the world, right? And you can build meaningful workplace relationships, and also you can earn trust and loyalty through that. Okay, so money can't actually earn the trust and loyalty. It's something that we concern as the communication human based thing, right? So it's very important. So trust and loyalty can be earned only through the communication and active listening. And also you can avoid costly communication breakdowns. That's a very important thing. Okay, so if you're going to become practically a better listener, means already you're a good interpersonal communicator, right? So then these are the things that you are going to practice. You have to be fully present in the conversation. That means you engage without distractions and listen without judgment. You keep an open mind. You do not make your own judgments. And you have to be empathy. You have to understand the speaker's perspective, and you have to practice reflective listening. That means if you can use the paraphrase, the same thing what the speaker has said, as a kind of a summarized key. Okay, a kind of a reminder to your mind what you have to do or get things clarified. And sometimes this is very important, you may have to use a notebook, right? Because we human beings, we can remember everything only within, I mean, yeah, one, just like our mind works as a kind of a CCTV camera, or CCTV camera can only store 4 to 1 week. Yeah, there are capacities they can store like that. So if we do not remember things, it will last only for 4 to 1 week maximum. But if you lose it again, you can't make it back, right? So it's very important to have a notebook. Okay, so finally, what you have to understand is, in this, effective leaders are the who actively listen, and they can build the team trust, and also they enhance the collaboration and the drive the workplace up to a higher place. Okay, now what's the time is? We can do this. Okay. These are the famous quotations we have when we talk about the interpersonal communication and listening. So the great leaders, they are the great listeners, right? The more you listen, the more you understand. The more you understand, then you can better lead that. So the other thing is, it's Peter Drucker says that the most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said, right? So there are plenty of sayings, utterances like this. this can motivate you. Now, we are going to move on to activity section. I will ask few questions from you. Before that, we'll have a short break. Now time is 3:21. Okay. So do you have any question to ask related to what we have discussed about interpersonal communication and the listening? Okay. If you do not have, so shall we go for a break, 10 minutes break? Yes? Hello? Okay, let's have 10 minutes break and then we'll come back. Okay. Are you all back? Hello. Okay, so now this is the first activity. This is something for you to think. Okay. Am I audible? Can you all hear me? Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is the first activity. I want you to just go through it. Don't stress yourself, but try to think whether you can give an answers for these discussion questions which I have provided here, 4 questions. So you are going to, the purpose of this activity is to identify the positive and negative listening behaviors in a real business meeting. So you are going to think about a business meeting and you're going to note down some of the listening behaviors that what we have discussed previously. Okay. So what are some signs that indicate active listening in a meeting? And you're going to think about what behaviors suggest that someone is not fully engaged, means not listening properly, right? And also, you're going to think about how can poor listening affect decision making and teamwork, and also what strategies can improve listening skills in a business meeting. Okay, so just if you have the tutorial with you, you can just write down some, at least one or two. And I'm going to discuss all these 4 questions in details. Never mind, but at least you have to be very cooperative with me and give me 1 or 2 answers for these questions. I'll give you roughly 5 minutes just to plan your answers for these questions. And then after listening to your answers, then we'll discuss I'll discuss what I have to say. Okay, I'll just give you another 5 minutes to go through these questions and just think about it. Okay, so can you tell me what are what are some signs that indicate active listening in a meeting? How you know that person is actively listening to you? I mean, yes,
Maintaining eye contact
very good. Okay,
and asking clarifying questions.
very good. Okay, yes.
I wrote two only, ma'am.
Only two. Yes. How about the other person? There is one more student.
For each question, I wrote the two.
Ah, you wrote. Okay. So can you tell me what behaviors that suggests that someone is not fully engaged?
Behaviors, so scrolling down phone while someone is talking
Mm,
and not like letting one to finish what he says.
very good. Okay. So how can poor listening affect decision making and teamwork?
Yes, for that, reducing trust and misunderstanding.
Okay, good. What strategies?
Take notes,
Hmm.
listen with an open mind.
Yes, very good. You have done a good job. Okay. So
Thank you.
yeah, we'll move on to these each questions. What you have said is also will reappear in that, but there are other things also I have add more into those slides. Okay, so the first one she mentioned was the maintaining icon. That's a very important one. So I have taken it as a first point. And also another sign is that you just nod your head that you acknowledge that you are listening to that person. And sometimes you can use the facial expressions to show that you understood that what that person said. And this one, paraphrasing and summarizing key points to confirm comprehension, whether you understood it or not. You can summarize the facts and it's we call reflecting listening, right? You can ask it again, and you can ask relevant follow-up questions for clarification. Senali mentioned that as well. And then providing verbal affirmations like so. Sometimes you can give these phrases like, I see, yeah, see what you say, that makes sense, good point. So these are we call verbal affirmations. So when you add to the conversation these kind of phrases, it also shows that you are actively listening, okay? And the taking notes is also very important. Sometimes in a huge meeting, if there are some important facts are there to jot down, so you can go there and just take your note and then write down. Especially if you are asked to write the meeting minutes, then you have to jot down the things, right? And also you have to avoid the interruptions, allowing the speaker to finish the point. Okay, good. And the behaviors that suggest that someone is not fully attentive. So you can see the frequently looking at their phone, laptop, and the other distractions, and interrupting others or talking over them. Okay, and then you showing a lack of facial expressions or interest in the discussions. You should not do these things, right? It's very these are, even though you do not understand what the person says, you tend to do pseudo listening, right? You pretend to do, but you should not show lack of facial expressions. And not responding if someone answers questions, and giving just kind of vague kind of unrelated answers, and also engaging in side conversation. You talk to the next colleague, okay, what's happening, and are you going to this party or that, like that. You're just having a casual chats there. It's not good, right? And fidgeting excessively, you shake your legs, and you do other hand, I mean, you were just biting your nails. Those things are not I mean, you should not show these things, right? And sometimes you check your time, whether you show that you are in a hurry to go, and you're appearing restless. And sometimes you repeat questions. Now the person who is speaking to you might have explained everything from the beginning, and you were in another daydreaming, and you repeat the same questions, right? Already addressed. These are the things that suggest that someone is not fully attentive or engaged, right? Okay. So how can poor listening affect decision making and teamwork? Okay, so as Sonali mentioned, we discussed again, it will reappear here. Some misunderstandings can happen, okay, and it lead to poor, incorrect decisions, and team members will feel undervalued, leading to disengagement, and also key details may be overlooked, causing inefficiencies or errors. Overlooked mean you will not just not granted what the meeting was. Now, if the meeting is going to be very productive, all the listeners should understood what the person has said, right? So there will be inefficiencies and errors, and also conflicts may arise due to misinterpretations and assumptions that you have made. And if you have not listened to the deadlines and then you miss the instructions, which are not clearly understood, and also collaboration may suffer due to lack of trust in the team and communication. Okay, if there is a poor listener in the team, then again, altogether, the whole team is in a kind of a chaotic situation, right? Pathetic situation. Okay, the strategies can improve listening skills in a business meeting. So we can encourage a culture, kind of a way of doing active listening by setting meeting norms, right? Sometimes it says, especially in some of the meeting, the leaders will ask you to, okay, please take a notebook and come because we are going to talk about very important things. Or else they will just give you some documents while you're going, you can just jot down easily what you have, they are going to cover like that. Okay. And sometimes they will give you feedback forms. Okay, what do you think about this meeting and all this stuff to make them, forcefully they get to the active listening part. Okay. And also use structured turn taking and prevent interruptions. Okay. What we call is a structured turn taking means when somebody is talking, you have to wait for your turn to talk back, right? And you have to wait for that turn. So that's what we call turn taking. So you have to be very patient. Then you can prevent the interruptions, right? Because if you interrupt in the middle of a speech, utterances, something like that, the other listeners will also get distracted from it, and that person has to explain it again from the beginning, right? And also promote summarization by asking attendees and restate key points. So from the audience or the meeting attendees, they ask questions whether to clarify things or do you understand this and that, like that. And sometimes this is, they make the policies that not to bring the devices like mobile phones, and they will ask you to switch off the mobile phones to minimize distractions. And sometimes they give you workshops and train you for effective communication and listening skills. They organize workshops, some get together meetings, to improve the effective communication and listening. And also they maintain an open, respectful environment for all the opinions are valued. Okay. And also they assign a meeting facilitator to ensure smooth and focused discussions. These are the things, the strategies that the business owning companies, they make to improve the listening skill within a business meeting. Okay. So the second one is the second activity. What we are going to do is it's about you have to again in the compare. We are going to compare in this activity. We are going to hope to compare active listening versus poor listening in customer interactions. So in this case, you have to imagine there's a customer and then there's a customer service representative. So first round means in the first time when they are conversing with each other, we see the representative listens actively using good listening strategies. And the second one, we see the second time when it's going to practice it, and the representative listen poorly, right? Okay, so these are the 4 questions. How did the customer feel when the representative actively listened? Right, think about 2 things, okay? And how did poor listening impact the customer's experience? And what were the key differences in problem resolution between the 2 rounds? And how can business ensure customer service representative practice active listening? Okay, so these are the 2 scenarios. In the first round, the representative listened actively using good listening strategies. Second one, poorly listened. And depending on those, I have drafted yet 4 questions. I'll give you another 5 minutes. It's okay if you can draft 1 answer for each. That's okay. Don't stress yourself. Let's see how you're going to answer this. I'll give you 5 minutes, another 5 minutes. Okay, so how did the customer feel when representative actively listened? Actively listen is related to the first round that we are using. Okay, can you tell me one? How will Okay, so I'll go to in details of these questions. Um, so if we think that the customer will feel valued, respected, and understood, and also they may have felt that their concerns were acknowledged and the representative genuinely cared about resolving the issue, and this interaction would be very smooth and also leading to increased trust and satisfaction. Okay. And then how did poor listening impact the customer's experience? So if you experience the poor listening of the representative, then we feel sometimes the customer will feel frustrated, unheard, and dismissed, and they might have to repeat themselves multiple times, leading to irritation. And then you can see ultimately the lack of attention from the representative. It can lead to misunderstanding, miscommunication, and incorrect problem resolution, and reducing overall the customer satisfaction, right? Okay. Okay. Then what were the key differences in problem resolution between the two rounds? So first round was active listening. The problem would have been resolved efficiently because representative were fully understood the customer's concerns and needs. And in round two, if the poor listening, the misunderstandings may lead to delays and errors and unsatisfactory resolution. So active listening would lead a kind of a positive reaction, while the poor could escalate tensions and the result of loss of even a lost customers, right? Okay. So how can business ensure customer service representative practice active listening? So we can see that they give the training on active listening, such as how to do the paraphrasing and then clarifying and the summarizing customer concerns. And also they encourage employees to maintain eye contact. That's very important, right? And avoid distractions and use verbal and non-verbal cues to show attentiveness. So they practice their uh, representatives, right? And also they implement performance evaluations and feedback systems. So within the customer representatives, service representatives, they evaluate each and every customer representatives, and they performance evaluations are there. Then they give feedbacks to reinforce the importance of good listening skills, and also foster customer-centric company culture, value empathy, patience, and respect in all interactions, right? Okay, so the next activity is actually is a kind of a self-evaluating how your listening skills. So just think about these questions, no need to answer. Did you allow the speaker to finish before responding? You think about that. Anytime if you have done, or you have waited for your structured turn taking? Or did you ask clarifying question to show your understanding? And how often did you provide non-verbal and verbal communication and the feedback? Okay, just nodding and paraphrasing. And did you get distracted or interrupted at any point if you are engaging in a meeting or something like that? Or have you used your mobile phones or whatever it is? And then what changes you can make to become more effective listener? So I think that today's lecture will guide you to not only for your business purposes related things, but also listening skills is very important even to maintain your family relationships as well. Okay, so I have given in details answers for these as well. I'm going to move on to this important section. That's very important and it's there in the syllabus content also. Human communication process in business communication. Okay. This human communication process can be there in business communication, in other communication ways also. But what we call interpersonal communication is the same thing, right? So there are key stages. We have discussed those stages earlier, but now we are going to analyze them in details, right? And we are going to learn how to craft a clear and impact message, okay? And identify appropriate communication channels where you can use for different business context. And you are going to develop skills in decoding and feedback and overcoming communication barriers. And also you're going to apply these concepts to real world business scenarios. Okay, so this is the last part of the lecture. And also this overall, we are talking about the interpersonal communication here as well. Okay, so we are going to talk about the human communication process step-by-step breakdown. And we are going to learn about the noises, what we encounter, what are the noises we call, and then practical business application. Okay. So if you are going to communicate with another person, what is the biggest challenge? Yes. So we'll see by analyzing this human communication process step by step, what are the challenges that we encounter. So this is the diagram I can show you. You're sending a message, so you are sender, and it encodes as a message, and you're going to decode, the receiver is going to decode it, okay? So you can see the communication channel, it can be different. How you are going to send the message to the receiver, we'll learn that. And also you give the feedback. Here, the noise, the distractions are not given, but we are going to talk about that aspect as well. Okay, so the first one is sender encodes the message. In that diagram, sender encodes the message. So encoding means how a message is structured and for clear understanding. Okay, why we are sending a message to someone? Because we have to pass something to that person. So it should be very clear to understand, right? So imagine example can be a manager announces a new policy in an email using bullet points for clarity. So that would be an example. Okay, so now I have text A and text B. You're going to just look into these two texts, the same thing, but two different structures are there. You're going to go through these two emails and identify what's wrong with text A and then what is there in text B. Okay, I'll give you 5 minutes just to go through it and see whether you notice something, any clarity in the text A and text B, or just analyze what's there. Okay, so what did you notice in text A? What can you tell about this? Yes, Sonali, you about?
Yes, ma'am. By comparing these two,
Hmm.
I can see that in text A, no name, receiver's name is not there,
Hmm.
and in more details are in text B,
Hmm.
and it's the language is more polite.
Hmm.
Comparing A and B, text B is more polite in language and more details are there, and the name of the receiver is also there. So it's better than A.
Yeah, yes, good observation, Senali. Yes, that's what I wanted you to focus on. So let's just analyze a little bit text A. So now that reporting thing and info, what do you think about these two words? It's kind of vague language. We can call it vague, okay? So you don't know what's happening. You just use that reporting thing. You are also not sure what you're referring to, right? So you use these phrases like the reporting thing and info. They are not specific, right? And also, I told you tone. Even though when we talk, we raise our tone, but through these kind of written text also we can see the tone, right? We can see very informal type of tone. For example, uh, the words like kind of, this is very informal type, right? We use this in very casual talks, and also as soon as possible, ASAP. These are very informal tone, right? The terms such as kind and as ASAP creates very casual type, right? Non-professional impression. And also, we are not clear of what the request is about. The purpose of this email is the deadline, okay, and the report, about the report, but it's not clearly. He is also not sure. But when we analyze this one, text B, you will see, just as Senali mentioned, there is a receiver. Properly, you use the, we call it a logical structure is here, right? So it's a refined version compared to the text A. And you can see complete sentences, and you can see formal language used, right? And also, it appears as a very kind of professional appearance, right? And also, it starts, when we talk about the logical structure, it starts with a greeting, okay? And also, then after that states the purpose clearly. I'm writing to request the assistance. Okay, the purpose is there clearly. And also ask clear questions to clarify. Could you please confirm the deadline and all? Okay. And also it concludes the way how you're going to wind up, I mean, end, right? It has a very courteous tone, very polite. You mentioned the word polite, right? Thank you for your time and support. It shows very politeness. Okay. And the tone overall, you can see it's a very professional tone is there. Okay. Yes. So I have write down the things here. If you want, you can note them down, or what you have to focus on is just like the text B, right? So it should have the clear language, specific terms like upcoming report, like without going for vague phrases like the report thing. It shows your professional, as a professional, that you are not professional, right? So you have to clearly, directly send the what you have to send. And also there should be a logical structure. In any kind of text that you are drafting, it's not only the email. The receiver should understand what you are trying to say, right? And you have to maintain the professional tone. Okay. Are you clear this part? How are you going to, hereafter, you have to be very careful when you're drafting emails, right? And also there is no heading here. Normally, I have only taken the body part of the email. It's very important for you to use a very clear and concise topic heading, because we are very living in a very busy world. The people that we are sending email can get a kind of an idea what you're going to talk within the body by looking at the heading. Okay, that part I have not covered here. Then next one is selecting the right communication channel. So how you're going to send the message to the receiver. Okay, medium, which medium? Or choosing between email or face-to-face meeting. Instead of an email, you can have face-to-face meeting or instant messaging for business update. Okay. So this is an activity that you're going to select the channel. Sorry. So this one. Okay. So if it's going to be the scenario like layoff announcement, so what is the communication channel that you're going to use? It depends on what you are going to select. It's very personal, I mean, business oriented one. So you can have a very personal meeting. Okay. So then you can have a video conference, or if you're going to have the project update, then you can have the email. Okay. It depends, right? It depends. And client proposal is there. You can go for a again formal email like that. So what I want you to understand is the channel that you're going to use, whether it's a video conference or face-to-face meeting or anything like that. Okay. Okay. So then the third step in that that process, human process, communication process, is the receiver, after the sender sends the message clearly through a channel, the receiver decodes the message. Okay. And what do you mean by decodes message? Means how the audience understand, interpret the message. Okay. So there are barriers when it comes. There can be the receiver may not understand the language, the terms that person sender has used sometimes. There can be personal biases and there can be cultural factors. These are the barriers that we can use when the receiver is going to understand, interpret the message. Okay. Fourth one, feedback. So since the communication happened between one person to another, so sender sends a message to the receiver through a channel, and receiver is also responsible to provide a feedback, right? So through that, it ensures that receiver has understood the message, right? Always, it's very good habit if you can acknowledge the emails, right? We see this part is not done, especially in HR departments. Some of the HR, very good HR departments, once the employee sends something, they acknowledge it, and they quickly take actions against that, and they send a feedback. But some of the companies, they have HR, they do not acknowledge the emails, right? So as a kind of it's a good thing you have two-way communication process, right? Feedback is very important. So an example for that is an employee confirms a task with a deadline with their manager. Okay. Fifth step is the noise, which was not mentioned there, but there are types of noises like physical, psychological, and semantic and organizational, right? Physical means at the moment where you receive the message, there can be physical that you are suffering from some kind of illness and you're not able to understand it, or you are in the meeting that you are uncomfortable with the chair that you're sitting, like that. And psychological means at that moment you may have having a problem with your family and you're thinking about your child is sick. So psychologically it affects the what you are listening, right? And semantic means sometimes when the person who is conducting the meeting uses some phrases, words that you do not understand, there can be language type of barriers, right? And also organizational. So you, when you enter to the meeting, you see it's not fully organized, then the message is not clearly given to the listeners. Okay. So an example, you can see poor internet connection also in virtual meetings. It causes disruptions. That's one example. Okay, so these are in details about the physical noise, distractions. It can be from the background and it can be your physical conditions as well, interruptions or your head pains at that moment. And there can be psychological noise, emotional barriers, and semantic means the language jargon that person use you cannot understand. And the technical noise, it's a very trendy one. When we use the technology, you can see the poor connection, unclear visuals. These are also can tend to mislead. Okay. Yes, we have come to the final part of the lecture. That is, when you're writing an email, when you're drafting emails and reports, you have to you have to encode it clearly to avoid the ambiguity. And the meetings and presentation, you have to use the right channel to ensure the engagement of the other party. And conflict resolution and negotiation. So you have to make use of this active listening to understand different perspectives. And customer relations and branding, so you can clarity and feedback loops. These two are very important to build the trust. Okay, so this is only for you to think about where the miscommunication case, where how encoding, decoding, and feedback could have improved the outcome. You can think about the workplace miscommunication related to this. And we are talking about human communication process, right? So this communication process involves encoding, selecting channels, decoding feedback, and overcoming barriers. These things you have to understand. When we are doing this, all these factors are involved in that. Okay. So very important fact is choosing the right channel, because it's essential for the message clarity. And active listening and feedback create two-way communication culture. And also minimizing noise. Noise here means the barriers we discussed, okay? The 4 types of barriers we discussed: psychological, physical, and semantic and technical, okay? Okay, finally, we are come to the action test. This is the action part, that's the last slide. Okay, so active listening is very important. Through this lecture, interpersonal communication and listening, we learn it because it's very important part of the human communication process as well as the business communication. So we have to implement active listening strategies if the employees are not listening, okay? And we have to use clear structured communication in emails, in reports. So I gave you an example for that, an email, text A and text B. And you have to choose the right medium for the different business messages, right? And also you have to provide and request feedback to ensure clarity. So that's all about the today's lecture. So I hope you have understood fully about how the interpersonal communication, even when you're talking to one person or you're addressing to a whole group, is very important. The active listening and interpersonal communication. Okay, so do you have any more questions? You can ask.
No, ma'am. Thank you. Madam, thank you for sending the presentation earlier,
Mhm,
as requested last time. Madam,
mhm.
next time also, can you send it earlier?
Okay, okay.
It's
You need
easy,
to
then we
speak.
can get a printout and get ready for that.
Oh, okay, never mind. I think you are receiving it. When are you normally receiving it?
I received it on Friday, madam.
Oh, okay, okay. So I send it on Friday. Okay, I'll send it on Friday. Okay.
But last Sunday's one, we still didn't receive, madam.
Really? Okay. So,
Only this one we received.
okay, okay. So let me ask it from them. But
Ah.
now they are sending it properly, no, right? Then there is no matter in that. So did you receive
Oh.
the previous presentation also?
No, madam, that's what I'm telling you. We still didn't receive the last lesson,
That means
last Sunday.
which I have done, no? Not
Yes,
the tutorial. You're referring to the presentation slides, right?
presentation.
Okay. I have sent it. I don't know what happened there, but I can talk to
Ah.
them and just give, I mean, you will receive it as soon as possible.
Okay, madam. Thank you, madam.
Okay.
Lesson is very clear, madam. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Okay, so if you have any questions, you can ask. Never mind, I'm ready to answer. And I
No,
think
ma'am.
you are not stressed because we are learning about the communication. So I have to sometimes ask questions, include question sessions. You have to dive into that scene and then provide answers. So,
Oh,
okay then, Sinali, have a nice day.
a nice day, madam. Thank you.
Okay. First, it's the public speaking. So we are going to cover what public speaking is and why it matters. And we are going to learn about key differences from casual conversation and how public speaking differs from speaking. And also how we are going to overcome the stage fright, the fear, and how we can improve our confidence to perform well, and also essential speech elements and types, and the public speaking's role in business success. Okay, so after this session, you will be able to recognize the value of structured communication, because when we talk about public speaking, already structured communication is involved there. And also, you're going to apply confidence boosting strategies. And also, you're going to identify the key elements of effective public speaking. So, before we are moving on to the deeper level understanding of public speaking, you should know what is public speaking. So, public speaking, we can name it as an act, right? It's an act of delivering structured communication, and you are delivering this structured communication to an audience. Okay, this audience with a clear purpose. That's what we call public speaking. Now, I told you in the introduction that we are going to cover up what is public speaking, and also you should know the difference between public speaking and how it's going to be different from normal speaking, right? Conversational type speaking. Okay, so this is what you have to understand. So public speaking is already structured, as I mentioned earlier, and it's already planned thing. okay, and it's goal oriented. And or before you're going to do public speaking, normally you analyze about your audience and you adapt to the audience needs. Okay. And also there are techniques that these public speakers use to grab the attention. So one is storytelling. So we are going to talk about these things in details. And the other one is repetition. To stress some points, they will repeat the points, what the speaker wants to tell. And when you're going to talk about the casual conversation, it's spontaneous and very informal, not like the public speaking. It's very structured one. This is spontaneous one as well as it's informal. And this can be very interactive as well as personal. And we little focus on structure, right? Normally when we do casual conversation, we do not prepare. It happens in the brain and normally you converse. But when we are going to talk about the public speaking, it's more structured and planned. That's how it differs. So if we put this public speaking and normal speaking in a table like this, so you see both have purpose, audience, and when we go to the preparation part, we have the very minimal and spontaneous preparation in the in this everyday speaking, right? And when it goes to the public speaking, it requires a lot more planning, organization, and practice. Okay. And you can see the delivery. It's natural, spontaneous. But when it comes to the public speaking, you have to understand it is coming with the kind of voice modulation, gestures, and engagement, right? Okay, so now we need to understand why the public speaking is essential, especially in a platform like business communication. Okay, so first thing is it enhances career prospects and also it strengthens leadership skills and it builds credibility and influence. So we are going to talk about all these facts in a kind of case studies, how it's going to be very important, this public speaking. And also, you can see these kind of scenarios, public speaking and this formal type of speaking involved in job interviews, networking, and presentations and conferences, and sales and business negotiations. Okay, so most people, even in the professional life, there are some fear of coming in front of an audience and talk. So most probably there are common fears and myths like this. So we have to avoid these things, right? So we may think that I have to be perfect on the stage in front of the audience. You have to believe that we are not perfect human beings, right? So we make errors and mistakes. That's why we need to practice it earlier and come back, okay? And we think that people will judge me, and this is a very common one. Only in extroverts are good speakers. So extroverts are the more socialized people. Okay. These are the common fears and myths that we have. And then we have strategies where we can overcome this fear of public speaking. So first thing is practice and preparation. That makes you less fear about what you're going to do in front of an audience. And there are techniques, especially dealing with the breathing and relaxation. And also, you have to focus on the message that you're going to talk about, not the self, right? So if you do follow these strategies, you can overcome the anxiety. Okay, so if I ask the question, what makes a great speaker? Okay, so you have to understand the qualities of an effective speaker. So these are the three things. What makes a great speaker? First one is clarity. Okay, so you have to speak with precision. The other person should understand what you're saying. And the next one is confidence. You have to own the stage. You have to build up the eye contact with each and every person in the audience. Okay. And then you have to engagement. You have to involve with the engagement. You have to connect with the audience. Okay, so there are key techniques where a great speaker will use, especially you can see voice modulation, right? That voice modulation means you adjust tone and pace. And also sometimes when you want to stress upon something, you will little bit, you raise your tone. Okay, and you have to make sure that pace means the speed, that the other, you have to give some time for the other person to understand what you're saying. And we discuss about the body language. There you need to use the gestures effectively, and also you have to use your eye contact. Okay, so we last session we discussed about verbal and non-verbal communication. So under non-verbal communication, we'll discuss about the body language, and we discuss about the eye contact in details, right? Okay, so when we are going to do kind of uh, public speaking, it's very important to have the confidence and preparation. Okay, so first of all, we have to understand why preparation matters, right? One thing is, if you prepare yourself, you can boost self-assurance that you are ready to do that, right? And also it reduces the stage anxiety. And also it helps you to enhance your message clarity. And also, there are some techniques you can use to build your confidence. Some speakers actually, they do that. They practice with a mirror, or else they record themselves and then they listen to it and use visualization techniques. And also, this is very important. You have to know about your audience and you have to adjust according to that. Okay, so here you can see this is a diagram where you can see how you can, it's a pathway of kind of boosting up your confidence. So you can see always continuously rehearsal, practicing, and also if there is a goal, you will have a confidence to go up and talk about it, and you have to build up the interaction. And also you have to include a feedback and reflection while you're talking. And also while you're doing all these things, you are branding yourself personally. And sometimes you may be confident enough to take the risks while you're doing. Sometimes there may be technical issues while you're delivering the speech. And also training. Practice makes you perfect, right? Okay. So now, there are basic elements of a successful speech. So because always I told you it's a structured one. So always if it's structured, there should be a structure format you have to follow. So any public speak has this introduction part where you grab the attention with a strong hook. Okay, where you get the attention, the strong hook. And also there, the rest of the body part, we present the key points with examples. And finally, we come to the conclusion where you reinforce on message and you are trying to leave impact. Okay, so this diagram is an example where you are trying to narrow it down to the conclusion from introduction to there is a link in between all these layers, right? So I told you, effective hooks. So these are the effective hooks that we can have. So you can start introduction with a powerful quote or surprise, in fact, or you can come up with a personal story. And also, you have to understand there are different types of speeches depending on what you're going to do. So you have to adjust your hook. Okay. And here we have got 4. First one is informative. Okay. Informative means it tries to educate the audience. Like the very famous one is TED Talk. So as undergraduates, you should listen to these kind of talks, and it really motivates you, and you can really see the way how they use their voice modulation and use their gestures and everything, right? And when there are campaign speeches, it has the kind of a type of persuasive, right? It influences the beliefs. And also there are leadership talks like motivational talks, right? Speeches. So it inspires actions. And we have the business presentation where the professional communications are there. So we are going to talk in details about this business presentations when we are going to talk about the oral reports. Okay, so why this public speaking is very crucial in business? So you should know in business we need to conduct meetings and reports. There you may have to use this ability of public speaking, right? Where you're going to presenting the findings, and sometimes in a case like sale pitches, persuading clients, you need to practice this public speaking. And also, you may have to use this in conferences like in networking and thought leadership. Okay, so this is very important where how you're going to maintain your business ethic in speaking. So first thing you have to know is that it should be, when you're going to speak, it should be concise and it should have the professional tone, right? And you have to use when it has the professional tone means then you have to use the formal language where appropriate, right? And make sure you maintain your eye contact and the confident posture. Okay, so this is the second section where we learn in details about the public speaking and introduction towards that. Now, this is the practical part of it where how you're going to improve, how you're going to control speech qualities, right? So we have the variation, voice modulation and tone. It's very important fact. So we are going to learn here why it matters. So under voice modulation, there is a variation in pitch and strength and clarity while we are speaking. So why we need to improve, engage with this voice modulation and tone? Because if the voice is going to be monotonous the same way, the audience will get bored, right? So you have to keep the audience engaged. So because of that, you need to modulate your voice and tone. And also it conveys emotions effectively. And also it helps in enhancing key points. Okay. And how we can adjust is you have to purposely do this and practice. Otherwise, you will not get a chance to do this, right? So you have to adjust tone based on the audience, setting, and message. These three are very important key points when and where you should adjust your tone. Okay.
Your tone changes the meaning of the words you use. Think about the difference between these. This is an exciting project versus this is an exciting project. One has vocal modulation where you feel the emotion and the other doesn't. It's also the difference between being an engaging conversationalist or a boring one. Here's what I invite you to do. Next time you're speaking in an online meeting or on the phone, record your voice.
Okay, so let's listen to this.
Your tone changes the meaning of the words you use. Think about the difference between these. This is an exciting project versus this is an exciting project. One has vocal modulation where you feel the emotion and the other doesn't. It's also the difference between being an engaging conversationalist or a boring one. Here's what I invite you to do. Next time you're speaking in an online meeting or on the phone, record your voice, play it back and listen to your vocal tone. Not what you're saying, but how you're saying it. Does your tone match the meaning you want to convey? Are you embodying the emotion? Is it interesting to listen to? Subtle nuances in your tone and voice have a big impact on how you're perceived and how engaging you are.
Okay, so I hope you you
When we have
understood.
teams of people who are really high on humanness and really low on courage, we often get people who are
Give me
very
a
much
minute.
people pleasers. They seek the validation and approval of others.
Okay, so by looking at that video, you understood how the pitch, especially the tone, affects, right? Okay. So the next one is volume control. Volume control. Okay, so the factors to consider is when you're going to volume control, that you have to adjust based on the setting, right? So the factors you have to consider is the room size or the audience size, and sometimes you may have to use microphones. And the best practices you can use here is that speak from the diaphragm for stronger projection, right? We are going to learn about when we are going to learn about the breathing practices that we are going to engage with practicing the public speaking. So here what you have to focus on is that you have to adjust volume for emphasizing and lowering for suspense, and you have to raise your volume for excitement. And also the pronunciation and articulation. That means how you use your vocal cords and your oral cavity organs. So you have to open your mouth properly while you're speaking. Otherwise, the listener cannot understand what you're saying. And also you have to use the tongue and lips effectively to pronounce that word. Okay. So sometimes you may have to use the dictation strategies where you may you use these strategies to practice tongue twisters and sometimes to slow down and pronounce some complex word. And this is very important. In public speaking, pauses and intonations are very important because they add impact on it. So always pauses add emphasis, right? And it allows the audience to absorb the information. And also these pauses also prevent fillers like like. These are frequent fillers. And also intonation. Intonation means rising intonation and falling intonation. So make sure when you ask questions, you have to go for rising intonation. And when you're talking with utterances and statements, you have to go for a falling intonation. Okay, so this is what most of the speakers are dealing with when they have the stage fright, right? So first we have to understand why we feel nervous before we are going to handle it. Okay, so first one is it comes with the fear of judgment, right? You're going to judge yourself. So previously we discussed about the things that you think that only extroverts could do public speaking like that. So that's the judgment that you're having about you, right? And also the lack of preparation. And Overcoming nervousness, you have to do these three things. First thing is very important, practice and prepare. It's a must. And also, when you become nervous, it's you will experiment this and see. You may have to have a deep breathing. Okay, and then you have to visualize the success. Always you should visualize the success. Then it keeps you, motivates you to do your speech. And especially you have to eliminate the filler words like uh, so you have to replace it with just close your mouth. Okay, then it gives you a kind of idea that this person is thinking. Okay, so and the other thing is you have to record yourself and self-assess your speech. Next one, gestures and body language. So always when we talk, it always reinforces the message. Okay, so it increases the engagement and also it complements the verbal message. Okay, non-verbal, always you have to use these both, verbal and non-verbal. We discussed that in the last session. Okay, and then first of all, you have to identify the open gestures. Always open gestures are welcoming ones, right? And when you pointing something, you should understand that gesture is talking about emphasis. And the hand movements always talks about the expressiveness. And the facial expression and eye contact. So always you have to wear a smile on your face because it always gives you the audience that they feel the warmth and confidence. And also raising eyebrows for curiosity and emphasize. These things are very important. And also you have to direct but not staring. You should not make the audience inconvenient in that position. So you have to have the direct eye contact, but not staring. There are two different meanings, staring and having eye contact. So you engage listeners and you build the connection with them. Okay. Vocal variety and engagement. So under this, we have pitch, elements of vocal variety. We have pitch, volume, and speed. Okay, so pitch can be high and low, and volume we have soft and loud, and speed means fast and slow. So why this matters? Because I told you previously also, this prevents monotony. If we talk in the same pitch, same volume, same speed, then the listener will get bored, right? So you need to add more energy and enthusiasm. That's why you need to more careful about this vocal variety. When you're going to use your pitch high, when you're going to use soft volume, when you're going to use when you're going to be very fast, and when you're going to be slow. Okay, so the practices where we can use for speech controller, first thing is mirror practice, where you can observe your own facial expressions, right? And the second one is recording practice, where you self-assess yourself. It helps you to self-assess yourself, the clarity and the pace. Pace means the slow or fast, okay? And also you have to practice breathing control drills where it improves the projection. Okay. And also the last one is reading aloud. It focuses on intonation, rising intonation and falling intonation. So where we are going to use the rising intonation, when we are going to ask a question, you ended up with high rising intonation. And when you are going to dealing with the statement, you go for the falling intonation. Okay, so physical presence and posture. This is also very important. So when you're going to do a speech, you physically present in an audience, in front of an audience. So you make sure that you stand tall with the feet and shoulder width apart, right? You are not going to hide yourself. You have to open your arms wide open and the shoulders should be wide apart. And avoid swaying and pacing excessively. You have to avoid this one, right? And always the confidence, you have to build up your confidence by open gestures and move naturally on the stage from one place to another to engage the audience. So I told you earlier, there are breathing techniques for better voice projection. So because we need that for the vocal strength and also it reduces tension. So the first one is deep belly breath. We call it diaphragmatic breathing. Okay. And the next one is paced breathing. You inhale and pause and exhale. And there's humming exercises where warms up voice. Okay, these are the famous step breathing techniques where the speakers practice. So you also should practice this and see the difference, how you do your public speaking in front of an audience. It's very important as a speaker. And this is very important. That is using humor and stories in speech. Why? Because it creates the connection and also it makes the messages very memorable, your speech very memorable. And also it keeps the audience engaged. So, but make sure that you keep the humor relevant to your topic, what you're going to use. Because always it's very important to practice this one, use relatable stories as well. Okay, so we have Barack Obama and TED speakers, for example. So if you analyze the Barack Obamas, you can YouTube and see this, how he speak, right? He's a great speaker and his clear articulation, clear pronunciation. And also you can notice this excellent vocal modulation through his speeches, right? And also confident body language. So what we can learn from these great speakers, how you're going to master pacing and pauses. And also how you're going to talk relating to relevant storytelling into your speech. And how you're going to use your voice and gestures effectively. So I suggest you, please go through Barack Obama, some of the videos, short videos related to Barack Obama. And you can analyze these key strengths and the lessons. Also, there are plenty of lessons are there that you can learn. Okay, so now we are moving on to this third section. It's important to do a kind of analysis about your audience before you're going to deliver a structured speech. Okay, so what you can see, because you can see in this crowd, there are different different types of listeners here, right? So it's very important. Your public speaking will be very effective if you know what who are the people in your audience, right? Okay, so here, why you need to analyze your audience? First thing, then you can enhance the clarity and impact. And also it helps to tailor the message and also the tone and delivery style appropriately depending on the audience. And also it increases the engagement, credibility, effectiveness. So we are going to analyze a kind of case study like this, how a person is going to do a business presentation or how that CEO is going to do in front of university students. So you will understand, depending on the crowd, audience, you have to increase the engagement, credibility, and effectiveness. So this will help you to reduce the risk of miscommunication. Okay, so when you're going to analyze your audience, first of all, you have to understand the demographic factors like age, gender, education, occupation, and cultural background. Okay, so not only these factors, it's very important, the psychographic factors like beliefs, attitudes, values, and interests and expectations of the audience. Okay, so then you will be easily you will be able to differ from one thing, one for college students, and if you're going to deliver a speech for the college students, so you will be able to identify their education background and then their gender, age, and beliefs. So it will you will be effectively passing your message to them, right? So it also helps you to create relevance, what you're going to talk about. So when you're going to adjust your speech to different audiences, so you consider the audience knowledge. So then you may have to use appropriate terminology, right? Where the audience will be able to understand what you're saying. And also you will do the level of formality, or whether you're going to talk in front of a casual setting or academic. And also, there are cultural expectations you have to consider about, because you may have to adapt humor, references, and tone. So it's very important. The tip what you have to understand here is you have to conduct pre-event research or survey audience expectation before that. So also you have to understand about the needs and interest of the audience, not only their demographic or the psychographic, but also you have to see the needs, why they need to listen to your speech, right? Sometimes the people listen when the speech solves the problems or adds a value. So then you have to consider about what does the audience need to know, why should they care, and what action should they take after the speech. So these things are very important. For example, motivating students about career growth and versus inspiring employees for productivity. These things are two different dimensions, right? And also, when you are going to do the public speaking, make sure you have the cultural sensitivity. What do you mean by cultural sensitivity? So you have to avoid the stereotype, because you're dealing with a different diverse kind of audience. There can be different ethnical groups. They belong to different religions. They belong to different kind of beliefs, set of beliefs. So then you have to avoid the cliche and offensive humor and be aware of the cultural norms, taboos, and values. That's very important. And use examples that resonate globally and locally as needed. So you have to bring examples where from your country itself and the global itself to make it very engaged, the speech very engaged. And also you have to adopt body language. And you have to use the inclusive language and avoid bias. So avoid gendered language and neutral. You have to use instead of neutral terms And you have to be mindful of disability friendly and diverse languages. And also ensure examples include people from varied backgrounds. Okay, so this is also another interactive way where you can engage the audience, right? So you can engage the audience with questions and interaction. So you can ask rhetorical or direct questions to keep them involved. Sometimes the rhetorical questions mean while the speaker is delivering the structured speech, he may pose some questions where the audience should not answer those, right? But it gives you kind of attention from the audience as well. And sometimes you can ask direct questions where the audience will give you answers. And you can have the quizzes, you can have short discussions, and you can have polls. And also you can ask a volunteer to share thoughts. That's also very insightful way of engaging with the audience, right? And you can do the storytelling and also humor to maintain the engagement. Okay, so we talk about uh, the speaking, public speaking, and the normal speaking. And also you have to understand the formal versus informal speaking styles are there within public speaking, right? The formal is very structural and professional. Informal is conversational and relaxed. So business presentation goes under formal, whereas the tech talks will go under informal. Okay. So you can see the tone is very objective and serious when you are doing a business presentation. But when you're doing a TED talk, it's personal and engaging. And you use this case in conferences and academia where you use informal type of these social events and networking. Okay, so this one is very important. How to read nonverbal cues from listeners. So you can use the engagement indicators like eye contact, leaning forward to that person or the people, and they're not taking. And disinterest signs you can see the looking at the phones and fidgeting and the blank stares. And confusion cues, you can understand that the furrow brows and then whispering and hesitant nods. Okay, the strategies you can use is you can adjust the speed, and sometimes you can clarify points or ask questions to regain the attention. And techniques for handling a distracted audience. So acknowledge distractions humorously. If appropriate only, you have to do this. And also you have to use movements to regain focus. And pause to let distractions settle. Directly address the audience. Let's focus on, refocus on, like that. So these are the techniques, right? Okay, so now I want you to think about this case study. How you adapting a speech for different audiences. So I told you previously also, a company CEO is speaking at a press conference or board meeting and a university event. So how does the tone, language, and examples change? So this always goes with the what we discuss about the analysis of audience, right? So you have to think about these things. So examples of good and poor audience engagement. Effective techniques are there, ineffective techniques are there. So let's see, what are the effective techniques? So you can use a relatable opening story and asking the audience to contribute experiences, and you can adapt based on real-time feedback. And on the other way, ineffective techniques are overloading slides with text and reading directly from the notes and ignoring the audience reactions. These are the very poor engagement where you can see ineffective techniques. Okay, so now this is a quick activity where you can think about a future presentation topic that you're going to do. And you may be able to identify your target audience, and you should be able to now you should be able to list 3 adjustments that you would make based on the audience analysis. Okay, so what we have to understand through this section 3, knowing your audience. So it transforms good speeches into great ones. And also it always adapt, engage, and refine based on the feedback. Your audience always determine. Okay, so you have to understand that the success of your speech always determined by your audience. So there is a famous saying also, the effective speakers listen before they speak. It's very important. Okay, so now we learned about the 3 things under 3 sections. We learned about how you're going to know about your audience. And then we talked about control, how you're going to control your speech. And we talked about what is public speaking. Now let's move on to the 4th section, which is going to talk about the delivering and planning speech. Okay, so knowing the audience, now you're capable of delivering and planning your speech. So, it's very important to plan your speech, and the key objectives that you have to keep in your mind should be clarity, engagement, and persuasion. And there are steps also in planning a speech. So now let's look at these steps. First one is identify purpose and audience. Second one, research and gather content. And third one, you're going to organize the ideas logically. This is very important. Otherwise, your audience will get distracted, right? And also, then fourth one, write and refines the speech. And the final one, rehearse and adjust for delivery. So knowing these things also knowing these steps is not important. You have to go through all these steps, right? When you're going to plan a speech. And also you have to you have to understand what we have learned previously, whether you're going to do what kind of speech. Depending on that, the speech objective changes, whether it's going to share knowledge, whether if it's the informative one or the persuasive one or entertainment one or inspirational one. So you have to, depending on that speech objective, you have to adjust to that. Okay, so this is the structure of a speech. There are 3 parts: introduction, body, conclusion. So in the introduction, normally you write the hook. You include the hook, right? Hook means we discuss the famous hook that you can use. Whether you are going to start with a famous quote, or you ask a question directly, or you're going to narrate a small story, which should be really relevant to the topic that you're going to talk. And also the purpose. And then you have to have an overview, preview, a little bit outline of what you're going to talk about. And in the body section, you're going to use supportive details are very important. Main idea supported with details. And final one is conclusion. Conclusion, it's a summary where at the end, you're going to call to an action. Okay, so now there are three things you have to know normally. The people remember in any kind of speech after listening to it, people remember ideas in three ways. First thing is, if you relate it to past, present, future facts, they will be easily going into the listener's head. Also, if you are structuring your format in problem solution benefits format, then it will also flows into the targeted audience. And logos, ethos, and pathos. What are these three things? Logos mean logical. If the points that you're talking are very logical, then sometimes the very logical thinkers, they will take it granted, right? And ethos mean credibility. The facts that you're going to talk about, whether they are credible or not. Some people, they're depending on the credibility of the facts when you're going to speak, right? And pathos are the emotional facts. Sometimes emotional facts are very keep remember things, right? When some speakers do their speech, very emotional things, you keep them remind. Okay, so especially the personal stories, it should be relatable and memorable. Data, always the data should be credible. That's what we talked about earlier. Okay, and it should be persuasion. And finally, a good speaker always craft a strong conclusion and call to action. So what you have discussed about, you have to summarize key points and you have to restate the main message. And also you're going to tell them what should they do next. Okay, so after having a strong structure like introduction, body language, and then, sorry, body part, and then the conclusion, it's very important to rehearse your speech for better flow. Okay, so you can do this one again in practicing in front of a mirror, and you can record and listen to yourself. And sometimes you can use a timer to manage the speech length. And also you can get feedback from peers. These are very effective ways where you can rehearse and improve for the better flow of the speech. So writing and sometimes before you're going to speak, give me a minute. Okay, so coming back to this, writing and speech notes are very important before you're going to deliver a speech. So there you use the keywords, not the full sentences, right? And highlight some transitions from one topic to another, what you're going to do, and keep eye contact while referring to the notes. Okay, so speech notes are also, if you forget some facts, you can keep it aside. And when you're delivering a speech in front of an audience, the power of first impression is also very important. So in this case, so you have to dress appropriately for the occasion. And also you have to show the confident body posture. And you have to use strong voice and control pace. While you are engaging with the speech, you should know how to manage the stage fright and nervousness. So there you may have to practice breathe deeply and slowly and focus on the message and also convert nervous into the energy. This is very important. So you can use open posture for confidence and movement where to keep the audience engaged and avoid crossing arms and fidgeting. Okay, so eye contact strategies for connection. So why do you need to make the eye contacts? Because it engages different sections of the audience and avoid staring at notes and slides. So you can practice this 3-second rule before you're going to do. Hold eye contact for 3 seconds. Okay, so when we are going to talk about the hand gestures, these are the do's and don'ts you have to follow. Try your maximum level to use natural gestures to emphasize point and or avoid excessive or repetitive gestures. It may disturb the audience also if you use the same repetitive ones, right? And you have to keep your hands visible, not in the pockets. This is very important thing. While you're delivering the speech, you are now ready to do it, but make sure you have to use the humor to engage the listeners because it builds the relationship with them and make the speech more enjoyable and be more appropriate. When you're doing the humor, it should be more appropriate, context relevant, situation irrelevant, and it should matter the audience, right? And sometimes while you're delivering the speech, you may have to face the unexpected disruptions and technical issues. So what you have to do is, then you have to stay calm and composed. Have a backup plan always. You can have the printed notes and extra batteries and alternate mics. So make sure everything is prepared, ready for you to deliver the speech without unexpected disruptions, without disruptions, okay? And you have to acknowledge these things happens and you have to move forward. So if you want to speak in confidence and authority, then you have to use a strong and clear voice. Make sure you avoid the fillers like like, you stand still. Instead of the fillers, you can be pause. You can use the pause, right? And then you can stand still and use deliberate movements. And also, it's very important to have a question and answer session. So you have to listen carefully, repeat the question, and be concise when you are giving answers and asking questions. And you have to provide clarity for the questions asked by the audience. If you're not sure about that, acknowledge that you will follow up it later. You will give a proper answer later. So sometimes you may have to do prepared speech and sometimes you may have to do live demonstrations, right? So then you have to, this is an example, it should be very interactive. Okay, so then you may need to practice a lot and you can get the feedback on the strength and areas for the improvements if you do the live speech, right? Okay, so there are sometimes not on the stage. Now, it's like Zoom and the other thing, other online platforms. So you may use the virtual and online audiences. So maintain eye contact with the camera is very important. And you have to use gestures if you're doing it virtual online one effectively despite the screen. And you have to ensure the good lighting and clear audio. So there are AI and technology also have improved a lot to enhance the public speaking skills. So there are speech analysis apps, AI generated feedback. So you can record, transcribe, and analyze your speech patterns. Okay, so these are the tips you can use for self-evaluation techniques. So final checklist before giving a speech. So you have to make sure you have done a rehearsal. That's number one. And then you have to go early to that place and you have to check the equipments whether they are okay. And always stay hydrated. You can use a water bottle and then you have to breathe deeply. So these are the things you have to consider before you're giving a speech. Okay, so now from section 1 to section 4, we have already covered about the public speaking and the things which involve with that. And now we are moving on to an important session, which is making an oral report. Let's have a 10-minute break before we are moving on to this session. Okay, so coming back after the break, so we are going to talk about making an oral report. So in this, we are going to learn what is an oral report. There's nothing new in oral report. We call it a spoken presentation, and why it is important. And there are types of oral reports involved in business communication. So you can see here, I have given everything here in this slide. So what is an oral report? It's a formal spoken presentation of information, findings, and recommendations. Why it's important in business world? It can facilitate the CEO, the other administrative people for decision making, and also it enhances professional communication. And it's a kind of a way of a platform where you can improve, build up your public speaking confidence. And if we consider about the type of oral reports in business communication, first one is informative reports, where you present all the facts and findings in it. And there are analytical reports you may have to do. It provides data-driven insights. And there are persuasive reports. It clearly involved with the decision making, and there are progress reports. It tracks and share updates, and incident reports are there which explain unexpected occurrences. So there are key components, just like the previous public speech. Here also you have a kind of a key components which we have in an effective oral report. First one is introduction, where you mention about the purpose and the outline of it. And then the second one in the body, especially you write, include the slides with a logical flow of information, right? You organize everything in that. And also, you have to focus on the data and evidence where it supports the materials, right? Points that you're going to highlight. And then conclusion, it's the summary and recommendation, and it's very important to have question and answer session because it engage with the audience. Okay, so the logical flow should be like this. It also has the introduction, main points, supportive details, and conclusion. What we have discussed there, now we are going to structure them. So previously, just like the same introduction we discussed in the public speaking, it's better to use a hook, okay, to grab the attention of the audience. And also you have to use the purpose. You have to mention the purpose and outline. And then main points, you have to clearly divide them into sections with the organized ideas. And to support those main points, you have to provide the data, visuals. Sometimes you may have to use case studies. And finally, in the conclusion, you wrap up the session presentation where you recap and you present the key takeaways and what you have to do next. That's what we call to action. So when we are going to use data and evidence to support your points, we have to use these things. First thing is you have to use the facts. And with the facts, you may have to use the statistics, examples, and sometimes you may have to cite credible sources. And you have to make the data easy to understand with the infographics and the charts and diagrams. And you have to avoid overload with numbers, right? So make sure that you use the charts and infographics where it summarizes all the numbers, what you have gathered. And it's very important, the reporting. When you're going to report it, you have to focus on the clarity and the precision. So you have to keep it very precisely, concise, where you are going to avoid all the unnecessary details because it takes time, right? When you're going to jumble with unnecessary details and necessary details, when you're going to talk about it, the audience will get distracted. They do not want to listen to it, right? And you have to use very simple and professional language. In a professional tone, you have to deliver it. And you be direct. Get to the point quickly and repeat the key points for emphasis. Sometimes you may have to handle complex information in reports. So when there is a case like that, you have to break information into smaller sections. And you may have to use visuals like diagrams, examples, and you may have to use examples and analogies. And you have to define the technical terms that you're going to use within the report very clearly to make the audience understand. And also you have to relate the data, okay? Relate the data to the real world applications. Otherwise, it won't be very relatable type of information that you are providing to the audience. Okay, so since we are dealing with presentations, so we make PowerPoint presentations in oral reports. So you have to be very careful when you're going to use the visual aids. So keep slide very simple, one idea per slide, and you have to use visuals like graphs, images, and bullet points, and you have to limit the text. Okay, so maximum 5 to 7 words per line, and you have to avoid all the distractions. No excessive animations. Sometimes the excessive animations can lead to distractions. Okay, so how you are going to maintain a professionalism during a report? So when you are going to deliver the presentation, structured presentation in front of an audience, it could be a smaller audience or the size of the audience can be different, but you make sure that you're going to maintain your eye contact. And also you have to use the formal language and tone. You have to dress properly and you have to stay calm and composed, and you have to avoid using filler words. So this is also very important fact where how you're going to manage your time when within a given time frame when you're going to deliver the oral reporting. So to practice that, you have to plan and rehearsal ahead of time. Okay, and then you have to allocate time for each section. So I'm going to discuss about the first section within this time, and I'm going to focus on the next factor like this. So you should have a management in time, how you're going to allocate each section, talk about each section. And you can use a timer for practicing pacing. And also you have to keep a space for question and answer. That's very important in a presentation, especially oral reporting. So when you're dealing with the audience in the questions and objections, you have to get prepared for those things as well. So you have to anticipate the common questions that they will raise. And you have to listen carefully before you're going to respond. And also you have to acknowledge even the objections very professional manner. And you have to support the answers with data. That's how you're going to deal with the audience in the questions and objections. So live demonstration, if you're going to do a live demonstration of an effective oral report, so you will see if it's well structured, there is a clear structure and effective voice modulation and confident body language. Okay, so you can see, you can analyze TED Talk on business trends. So what you can see in that is engage in delivery and then well-supported claims are coming up And then strong totalitarian techniques are there. Okay, so you can use these strategies for delivering report to senior management. This is very important, right? So you have to be very brief and to the point. And you have to use executive summaries. And you have to focus on impact and key takeaways. And show confidence and you're well prepared for that. And also you have to prepare for follow-up questions. So these are the things you have to be very careful when you're actually you have to use as strategies, and then carefully you deliver the reports to the senior management. Okay, so this is an interactive task. So if you are given a topic on strength and improvements to talk about some kind of topic related to business communication, these are the things that you have to consider about do's, and these are not, you should not do. Okay, so on the do's, you can see structure logically, use visual effectively, be clear and concise. You have to avoid unnecessary details. And you should never do this. You should never read directly from the slide, and you should not overload with data and ignore audience engagement. You should not do these things. And what we have noticed, the common mistakes in oral presentations, and the other side, it was given how to avoid them. Okay, so you should not speak too fast. You have to practice low, clear delivery. And the other thing is poor time management. So to overcome that, you can rehearse with a given limited time, and then you can overcome poor time management. Then the lack of engagement, you can use the eye contact and you can ask questions. And the other one is too much text on slide. So only thing what you have to do is you have to use keywords only on the presentation slides. So these are the three other things, the persuasions in oral reports, ethos I mentioned earlier, credibility. So it shows your expertise, and logos means the logic. These are Latin words. Okay, so logic means you use facts and data to be more logical. And sometimes you relate to the audience needs, emotions, right? Okay, so now here we have come to the conclusion and last part of the session, today's session. So public speaking and oral reporting, that's our topic today. So what you have to understand is, it's public speaking is, you need to improve that skill because it comes with the practice and feedback. Always you have to speak. Otherwise, if you have started speaking only, you will practice it. And after doing that also, the feedback is very important to improve your speaking. And make sure when you're doing a public speaking, you have to include this structure, clarity, and confidence. These are the keys to the public speaking. And also, when you're going to master oral reporting, it enhances the professional success and also academic and professional success. So what you have to understand through this today's session is, it's very important to prepare yourself and audience analysis. And you can structure your speeches for impact depending on the topic that you're going to deliver. Then you can include the proper introduction, body and conclusion, and make sure that you overcome the anxiety. You can only overcome it by practicing and using the techniques which we discussed earlier. And you have to use these varieties of vocal varieties, hand gestures, and eye contact. And also, it's very important the power of storytelling, because to make the listeners engage with your uh, speech. So as I told you, there are tips where you continuously improve in your public speech and the oral reporting. So you can record and analyze that the self-evaluation. And also you can join the speak group, Toastmasters and debate clubs. And also you can get feedbacks from your mentors and peers. And you can practice impromptu speaking regularly. Then you will get used to it. And you can read and listen to the great speakers. As I mentioned earlier, Barack Obama. So you can go through it and analyze all the features that a great speaker should have. You will listen the poses, the way how he uses the body language, more voice modulation. So you can notice these things. So I told you, you can do the self-assessment or self-evaluation. So you can ask these questions to yourself. Did I structure my speech clearly? Was my voice audible and expressive? Did I maintain eye contact and good body language? Did I engage the audience with relevant content? What can I improve for the next time? So these are the self-improvement checklists you can use. So personal reflection on personal public speaking journey is very important. There are challenges, and but you can overcome them by reflecting your own growth. Okay. So the challenges what we notice among public speakers are, what are the most common difficulties? So it can be individual basis, right? So you have to recognize your own difficulties and how do you personally handle the nervousness. And then you have to share and learn from others' experience. So first, you have to reflect on your growth, and then you have to understand initial challenges and fears and what strategies work best for you. And then what's your biggest improvement so far. So you have to have a track on these things. So finally, I'm again recapitulating these things with you. So the techniques what you can use is controlled breathing before speaking. And you should use the positive visualization. And you have to practice more everyday speaking tasks. Then only you will improve yourself. And you have to know your material well, what you're going to talk on. And if you're going to do an oral presentation, structured ones, then you should know what you're going to do in front of the senior management, right? So then you have to accept that mistakes are the part of the process. And then next time you can overcome those mistakes and do it properly. Okay, so what you can understand, you can see this is a summary slide. Public speaking is a kind of a journey. Every speech has something to learn. So you learn by each and every speech. Your own mistakes, you can correct them. And you have the challenge here is to commit speaking. At least you have to get a start doing it once a week. And always stay connected. That you have to join, you can join speaking groups and take part in those things. And also, if you are more interested, there are books you can follow, and there are courses for the practice, and there are platforms like TED, Harvard Business Review on communication. So you can watch these videos and you can inspire yourself. Okay, so thank you. That's the end of the today's session. So we'll meet you on in next week with a new topic like this. Thank you.